Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 434 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, I was a part of Rotary for many years and served as club president and also recruitment positions on a district level. So if you're looking to continue doing community service and meeting leaders all over your town after graduation, I would highly recommend joining a local Rotary club, and your network will increase for more job opportunities and networking every single week. Also, if you want to improve your public speaking skills, Rotary clubs have speaking opportunities every single week. So they can help you improve those speaking skills by sharing your story across the many clubs that exist in your region. To talk a little bit about Rotary, we have our next guest. Doug Crowe won the Dale Carnegie Highest Achievement Award as a high school student, and he was one of the youngest trainers for that organization. He graduated from Northwestern University with a BS degree in speech with a concentration in radio, TV, and film. His clients include C-suite professionals from Apple, NASA, Louis Vuitton, the NFL, Bank of America, the U.S. Coast Guard, the U.S. Navy, and even the U.S. Marines. While Doug has amassed a lifetime of experience and success as an author, a speaker, and a media insider, he knows the power of associating with a world-class team. From producing and publishing best-selling books, marketing on the largest infomercial network in the country, or even producing blockbuster Hollywood movies, Doug's team has done it all and continues to excel with every client and joint venture they align themselves with. Doug is an avid scuba diver, an instrument-rated private pilot, a photographer, a magician, and also a father of three. Welcome to the show, Doug.
Wow, I want to meet that guy. Sounds great.
That guy sounds incredible. Listen, if you want me to introduce you on stages all across the country, I'm available. Just pack me in your suitcase. We're good to go.
All right. Well, I got an event coming up in April. We'll talk about it. Thank you.
All right, let's make that happen. So, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background, and I always love talking about college and the undergraduate experience. You decided on Northwestern University for your undergraduate experience, which is a fantastic institution. In full transparency, my daughter is looking at that college right now, trying to make a decision by the end of this month on where she's going to go in the fall. Now, I'm sure you had many choices. Why did you ultimately decide on Northwestern?
Oh my gosh. It's a very funny story, quite frankly. Number one, you need to know that my high school guidance counselor suggested I not apply because it wouldn't get in, which, if you want me to do something, you just tell me I can't do it, right? It's like, so I applied to, USC, let's see, Ithaca, Cornell, Northwestern. They all accepted me. Thank you very much, Betty, for your advice.
Thanks, Betty.
But I chose Northwestern for the dumbest reason you can possibly imagine. As an 18-year-old kid, I'm like, all right, this school, they all have their advantages, but Northwestern gave me like a free can of film to shoot a movie.
Oh, wow.
Like, $500 value, whatever. So even though it's, you have to remortgage your house to go there, this free can of film was the incentive for me. I'm like, okay, I like that place. So that's why I chose it.
That's amazing. Who would have thought that a university would send you a can of film of all things?
Well, as a film major, you got to, at the time, it was before video really took off. So we'd use film to, record things. So it was a big deal.
That's a big deal. I mean, that's a big investment on behalf of the university. I mean, that's better than a stress ball or whatever else.
I suppose. Yeah.
That is a great story. I love that. And, I know that you're also involved with Rotary and you're a RILA program designer. I've actually been to RILA in Crossville, Tennessee, of all places. Took a bunch of students out there and we had an amazing time. I'm sure many of the college students who are listening right now really don't know what RILA is. Talk a little bit about that program and how were you able to develop this leadership training program?
It's kind of those happenstance situations. A friend of mine was doing a lot of Rotary facilitation across the Midwest mainly, and he couldn't make it one year. He's, Doug, can you go do this? I'm like, what is it? Well, it's a thing of a couple days and you're speaking, whatnot. You don't get paid for it. It's volunteer. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll go. And I've got to tell you, of all the things I've done, speaking, TEDx and Dale Carnegie and Rotary, all these different places, RILA's got to be my absolute number one joy to work, to speak at, to facilitate, whatever you want to call it. Mainly because when you're talking to, 100 high school kids, you can say things like, kids, your attitude determines your altitude. And they're like writing it down like it's something, Zig Ziglar's he said that, for 20 years, but to them it's brand new stuff.
Yeah.
But equally important, there's actual real transformation you can see in these kids and their leadership skills in 3 days. Adults, we're crusty, we're experienced, we have a lot of negative things. These kids, everything's possible. And it's such a joy to actually work for them is what I did for those 3 days. So it was I highly recommend anybody looking at RILA, R-Y-L-A, RILA for Rotary saying, get involved as a student, as a facilitator. It's a ball. It's just so much fun.
I mistakenly said college students. I meant high school students. And, ultimately, you're absolutely right. When I took those students over there and they drove in my car to RILA to Crossville, Tennessee, which was probably a 2 or 3 hour drive, and then I had to drive them back. I tell you what, I mean, the conversations that we had on that way back were so deep. And they really were processing in real time while I was with them in the car. And they were kind of hostage. I mean, they were in my car. They weren't getting home unless they were riding in my car. So I got to hear all the conversations that they had. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a life-changing experience. How do we get every high school student in America to go through RILA? Because then I think we're talking about massive change in terms of what's possible for these students.
Yeah, I was in the Big Brothers and Big Sisters for a number of years when I lived out in California. And the president of the Orange County Big Brothers Big Sister said he used to work as a warden in a prison for like 20, 30 years. And after that long, he said, I don't think this works. I gotta get these human beings when they're younger to make an impact in the world. And RILA is a great example of forming leadership skills, team building, personal development, all in this environment where, in our case in Wisconsin, I'm not sure, we got no phones. It's like you're in the woods doing stuff, learning, talking, sharing. And it was, it's transformative for sure.
It is.
For everybody.
Definitely transformative. They have something similar on a college level with fraternities and sororities that I'm a big advocate for all the same reasons that you're a big advocate for RILA. I think there's so much you can do with students in that high school and college age that is, you're right. I mean, everything you give them, they write it down and they think about how they can apply that. And they're not so jaded with, the real world stuff that adults are dealing with.
I facilitate, their dreams. And I tell a story of my guidance counselor, I make a little joke about her, being not very wise. And the kids, they have these notions, right? And a lot of them have been told, you shouldn't be an actress. You shouldn't play the flute that much because you need to be an accountant. That's security, right? And this gal was saying, I really want to be a flute player, but my mom and dad think I should be an accountant because I'm good with numbers and it's successful, it's steady, it's stable, it's secure. And I'm like, listen, your parents love you. Your teachers love you. They're not telling you bad advice. My advice is you have your whole life to be disappointed. When you're young, take some risks. Okay. I mean, you don't have to assume you're not going to make something. My nephew's a concert clarinet player, and it's very difficult to make a living playing an instrument.
Right.
But it's not impossible. Someone's going to do it.
Yeah.
So, I always encourage, but I always frame it up saying like they respect you, they love you, they trust you, but doesn't mean they're always right.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Now, back in 2008, you actually wrote a book that, to be honest, you weren't very happy with. So what did you learn after writing this book that you really didn't like?
The backstory on that is just thanks for bringing that up, Michael. It's I spent 20 years as a real estate investor and developer, and I had to own my own academy where I taught investing to people and did very well with that. And a small company, but we did very well. And one day, 2008 happened. I went down the sewer.
Right.
So Doug was a multimillionaire, then he's broke. It's like a very fast window. So during my little boohoo phase, I wrote a book about it, trying to, cathartic, whatever, teach. And it was so awful. It was just so bad that I couldn't even publish it. It was a horrible title, horrible idea. At the time, it felt right, but the end product was just horrible. So I decided I better go back to my, asking advice on these things. And I had a radio show for a few years in Chicago. So I got to call up some of these people that I had interviewed. Laura Langmeyer, Robert Kiyosaki, these people in that space. And they said the same thing, almost identical. Said, "Oh, I'm a best-selling author. I'm not a best-selling writer." Oh, I see. So they had I have ghostwrite my book. I've got my ideas, my theme, but someone else does all the hard work of framing it, writing it, editing it, proofing it, design, publishing, all that stuff. So I learned from my own book that, I can write pretty well, but I can hire even better writers. I can market pretty well, but I can build a better team to get things done. So having a big lead balloon like that go out, or not go out, but that trying to write a book thing, I figured out that most people cannot write well for long periods. What I mean by that is, like, if you go to a movie, right? Hollywood might spend $100 million to hold your attention for a couple of hours. In a book, you're asking the reader you're supposed to hold their attention for 4, 6, 8 hours with just your words, just ink on paper. How well do you think you can do with that? If you don't have story arcs, a little drama, tension, character development, nemesis, heroes, even in a nonfiction book, you got to have those same elements to pull people through your manuscript. Otherwise, it doesn't get read.
Man, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Actually, one of our speakers, that's exactly what she does. She actually is the ghostwriter for CEOs and other celebrities that she's worked with. And it's a lucrative business for her. There's no question about it. But she is a professional writer, and she understands all of those ebbs and flows that you need to keep somebody's attention in a book. And it's not easy to do. It's definitely
not easy to do. And AI came on the scene last year, and people were thinking that's gonna be my fix for this. And like, well, really, I want you to have AI, weave you a 200-page book and hold human beings' interest. I mean, it's great for title spinning. It's great for setting up frameworks. It's great for regurgitating stuff that's already out there.
Yep.
But original thoughts and a long form storytelling process, not yet.
No, it's not there yet. But you're right. For idea generation, it is very good. So I like it for that stuff. But you're right. It still has limitations. Speaking of books, a lot of people write these books, obviously, for credibility in their niche. And so, granted, books will definitely get you credibility. If you can write a best-selling book, that gets you credibility. Are there other things that people can use in order to build credibility in their niche?
It's the book is usually, it's an effort by the individual and the team that he has to go at that process. And there are varying degrees of quality there, of course. And there's approximately 2 million new books every single year. So as Amazon opened up that whole thing for anybody to publish, it's good news and bad news. It's good news because anybody can publish, and it's bad news because anybody can publish. So being an author is a definite important step for people who want to become recognized in their industry. But beyond that, it's always going to be third-party endorsements, TEDx stages. Those are a big thing we promote to our clients. Make sure they get a TEDx stage. Getting in the media. I mean, social media, anybody can publish a live stream, a Facebook post, whatnot. But can anybody be on ABC or CBS or Fox? Even as a regional station, it takes more effort, and it's scarcity. The more you are seen by scarce, credible other sources, the higher your status goes. It's the same reason people have celebrity endorsements. If I'm aligned with something like that, that's important. Oh, not everybody, gets their picture taken with The Rock, right? So that might help boost your credibility a little bit. It's more impressive if you actually have a conversation with them, or something that's more aligned to your message. But TEDx stages are important. Getting media attention, speaking is a big one. As you can tell, you get 3 hours with kids in a car, 1 hour on a stage with an audience that it's unlikely to leave unless you're really bad. Right. It's also a good way to hold their attention, and also have a dialogue of some kind, even if it's a visual dialogue. The only downside to marketing really is it's usually a monologue, whether it's either a book, anything else. It's a one-way monologue of what I'm going to try to say, either clicks or doesn't. But a dialogue helps you adapt to the audience and the situation. So that's why I love speaking as a major component to most of my authors. They want to get on some stages, not all the time. Maybe don't be professional speakers, but even getting on a couple of industry stages is going to help boost your credibility quite a bit.
100%. I agree with that. And again, for the students who are looking to get their quote unquote first stage, look to Rotary clubs. I mean, that's a great place
Yeah,
to kind of test your material
absolutely.
and see if it works. It's going to be unpaid, right? Rotary doesn't have money to pay you as a
Yeah.
speaker. However, in order to get your reps in and really figure out what works and what
Mhm.
doesn't work, understand that speakers who do it professionally, like me, you have to get your reps in and you got to figure out what jokes are landing, what's not landing, and really
Right.
perfect it over time.
Mhm.
There's no shortcut to that. People are always looking for a shortcut, but there is no shortcut to getting the reps.
No, same thing with the media. There's in order to be in the media, you've got to have media experience.
Mhm.
So that's hell catch 22. So one of the things
Right.
that we do is we help, get that first step in. So we'll do some press releases for them, put them on a couple of podcasts, get them some media exposure, some media training, and then put together a press kit that actually gives the host of whatever they're trying to pitch some comfort. Because the only thing they care about is not being embarrassed.
Right.
They don't care what you say or what you're talking about. They really just don't want to be embarrassed. So the more you can make the host job easier, the better you'll be received in the media. I did that as a host on ABC in Chicago and radio. Any host, or excuse me, any guest that came on with, here's the questions you can ask me. Here's my approximate length of answer. That was really important for a live show because now I can look at the clock and time out my questions. And they were never scripted. It was always, kind of loose, but it helps. Every time you can make the host look good, you're going to get invited back.
100%. That's
Yeah.
really good advice.
Mhm.
Now, you mentioned AI before, and I know college students are certainly using it right now.
Yeah.
But higher education, I got to tell you, they're still resistant. They're still
Yeah.
skeptical about using it, probably because they only associate AI with cheating. I mean, that's kind of what the association is.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain elements that AI does not have, and we kind of talked about that a little bit in terms of capturing human attention in a book over 8 hours. AI just can't do that today.
Yeah.
So, how do we embed humanity into the use of AI?
I'm so glad you come to my TED Talk today, Michael. That's great. My TEDx talk is titled "The Power of Humanity in the Shadow of AI." Maybe you knew that because you read my resume. But
Yeah.
there's actually three components that AI may never get to, or at least not in the near future, and that is heart, soul, and responsibility. Anytime you create content, you're responsible for it. So if you leaned on your tools, whether it be Canva or AI, doesn't really matter. Whatever tools you lean on, if you don't take responsibility for that content, you're making a grave mistake because that's representing you and your brand. So you have to be responsible. The heart and soul part, this is the part where probably, I like science fiction as much as anybody. So the soul probably never. The heart, I don't know. But for right now, you and I could read anybody's social posts, article, whatnot. And I can tell you within a couple seconds whether that person used AI or at least didn't heavily edit it. And that is the part that, I could read stuff now. I'm like, oh my God, here we go. In the realm of possibilities, there's a plethora of ideas and strategies. I'm like, okay, what are you trying to say here? In the realm, it's just, it regurgitates these big words thinking there's something behind it, but there's not.
Yeah.
So embedding your own heart and soul and humanity and responsibility into your work is the foundation. You can use AI like I use Excel. We use it to spin titles, no problem.
Mhm.
But if you don't feel it, the reader's not going to feel it.
I
Simple as
love
that.
it. That is a great TEDx talk. Go and watch Doug Crowe's TED Talk, and
Yeah.
you'll get more information on that in full. I love talking about brands. The college students today, they're all about creating their own personal brand. Just go
Yeah.
and look at their social media profile, and you'll see it in terms of
Mhm.
color and style
Yeah.
and language. What is the best way for college students to create that brand?
Well, it comes to first of all, the defining what the word brand even means. And I've got a very unique, I think, definition of what a brand is. McDonald's is a brand, Nike is a brand, but I don't really shop there. So my definition of brand is the perception of a person, regardless if they're a customer or not. So sometimes that's just a swoosh, a color, a feeling, a thought. If they're an actual client or a customer or a prospect, it even matters more so, of course. And it's not just about the way it looks, although that's helpful. I'm a very visual person, so I love when things all come together with the color charts and the fonts. That's important. But most important is what you stand for and what you stand against. Not to be negative, of course, but if you stand for something, by extension, it probably means you're also standing against something, whatever that is. So being a little bit visceral or controversial with your brand always gives you more attention. I mean, I have a good friend who's buddies with old Mr. Rush Limbaugh's producer, and they told me that 30 or 35% of the audience hated him. Now, the advertisers, they don't care.
Right.
Because they're getting attention. It's an attention economy. Not saying you want to develop a hate squad, but it's okay to piss off some people, provided you've got enough people that advocate for what your message is. So controversy is a good one, as long as you're delicate with it. We never make the nemesis in our books an individual. It's always going to be an idea or a group, something like that. But you never want to, say, you're a meanie. No, you want to say, well, we advocate for this because the opposite of that is evil or something like that.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I love that that quote there saying that if you stand up for something, you're against something else. So you really have to think about that when you're making your brand. And I have a big TikTok following, and every one of the videos that have gone viral, I'm talking about over 500,000 views. They're all a little bit controversial. They're all a little edgy. And then suddenly it sparked a huge conversation in the comments. And that told the algorithm at TikTok that we need to show this to as many people as possible. Right.
Yep. And there's an actual, anthropological reason for that, if you care to know.
Yeah.
Okay. The limbic brain, our crocodile primitive brain, runs the show, right? When you get a cut on your hand, you don't have to say, oh, please heal, give me a scab. It does it naturally. When we slow down for a car crash, even if it's not in our lanes, opposite lane, there's a car crash, everybody slows down. Why? Because we want to either avoid danger or go towards something positive. It's yin and yang. It's a yes or no. I want this or I don't want it. Everything is based on a binary principle in our primitive brain. Do I want to eat this thing or is it going to hurt me? And we've evolved beyond that technologically and socially, but not in our DNA. Our DNA is still afraid of things. So when there's controversy, when there's something visceral like that, ooh, danger, I better pay attention to this. That's the reason that this is the reason I don't watch the news, because they know what works. Show me the fire, show me the death, show me the destruction. Yeah. And then I can avoid it. Even if it's an ocean away, it doesn't matter.
So interesting. You also talk about referrals for your brand. And I think this is really important for college students that are thinking about maybe creating their own company, for example, a new product or a new service that they want to develop. How do you create an army of salespeople without even paying them a dime?
Yeah, this is a big one. I kind of messed up a little bit in college because I was going to, be a filmmaker. Now I'm an entrepreneur. But I'm telling you guys, if you anything you do in your 20s, don't worry too much about the money. The most important thing you can do, number one thing you can ever do, is to build your network of people that you know, like, and trust. That's it. Doesn't have to be matter of fact, it's probably better if they're not in the same industry. Different industries, different people, love them, serve them. But I've got like one or two friends, like I could say that they have the biggest, most powerful network on the planet. I mean, one guy did a fundraising thing. He was going to actually buy a company, and he's looking for $250 million, $230 billion to buy this company. And because of who he is, and because of the network he's built over the decades, $1 billion was offered to him from a bunch of people. He said, I only need 233. Imagine having that kind of problem, $1 billion offered to you, and I only need 233 of it. Another guy went to come up with his events, and they were high profile events too. I mean, there's just like, politics aside, it was at Mar-a-Lago, okay? And I'm running across all these people. I'm like, oh my God, I recognize you from TV. I recognize you and this senator and this person. And every single person I recognized went up to my friend and said, hey, how you doing? They knew him. And it goes to the adage of, it's not what you know, it's who you know. It's not who you know, it's who knows you. And he didn't go to college. He went for like one semester and dropped out. He was a wildcat guy, technically, actually a wildcat oil guy. But he's built his network through just being nice, really. He's just a super nice guy, and everyone loves him. And when he needs something, he picks the phone and gets it done in seconds.
Mhm.
Not when he's in college, but as he's built his network over the years, it's your greatest asset. It's worth a lot more than money, is to build a really powerful army, if you will, of advocates.
That's such a
So
great point. I'm so glad you
it's
mentioned that. It's critical for these college students to really to understand what is the point of college. Yes, you want to get
yeah.
a degree. Yes, you want to make more money. All of those things are important, but you want to build your network, and that
Mhm.
is really the critical part of being in college. Start
Yes.
with a LinkedIn account and start
Mhm.
growing the number of testimonials that you have on LinkedIn,
Yep.
and start building out, just daily posts about things that you're seeing
Mhm.
in your niche,
Right.
and people
Mhm.
will be attracted to those posts and will then increase the number of followers and links that you have on LinkedIn.
And vital to do is one more step after you started that process.
Yeah.
And that's to do what I do on when people connect with me, I always start with what lead connection resource could I provide to you that would make you a great day or a great month? What can I do for you? I never ever pitch on a first contact. That's like going to a party and saying, hey, I want to sell you a new car. I mean, we don't do that in real life. For some reason online, we tend to like pitch too much. So yes, go on LinkedIn, build up a nice profile. If you don't have anybody, start putting your friends but connecting with people and then picking up the phone and calling them, you'll stand out, number one, because no one does it anymore. They text, they email, they chit chat. They don't actually pick up the phone and call. Maybe it's too old school, but I'm telling you, it works. I have connections of, Fortune 1000 companies because I've connected with them and I have a conversation with them.
Yeah.
And I don't pitch. I just serve and, hey, what can I do to help you out? And you'll build a lot more value in your life by focusing on that in a big, big way.
You're
And
so
the last
right.
thing I'll say in that is I'm friends with Bob Berg, who wrote Endless Referrals and the Go Giver series. So you've been very advocating Rotary, which is important to do. I agree with it 100%. I'm also going to advocate for reading 7 Habits for Highly Effective People. Read the Go Giver, read Endless Referrals, and apply it. Because when you apply what you learn, then you really learn it, not just think, oh, it's a good idea.
You're so right. A lot of college students are so focused on what it is that they need, whether it be an
Yeah.
internship or a job, they're forgetting about the fact that, you just met this new person and they've got their own needs. And
Yeah.
if you really want to build a new relationship with
Mhm.
somebody that you have no existing relationship
Right.
with, the best way is to start, how can I help you achieve
Mhm.
your goals? And then the law of reciprocity eventually
Yeah,
kicks in. And
exactly.
eventually they say, okay, so what can I do to help you, Doug? So
Yeah.
you will get your time, but you just have to understand how to build relationships.
Yep. One of my clients runs a $300 million company. Super nice guy. He's going to $1 billion next year or two. I can see it.
Yeah.
And we're talking about his, hiring and talking with people and networking. And he said, I had this one person approach me who said, I love what you guys are doing. I'm so impressed. I'm a recent college grad, blah, 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 blah. I'm so excited about what you do. I'd like to come and do this, this, this. I had no skills, but I have this attitude, this energy. I'll work my butt off to prove my value, etc. What CEO isn't going to take that call?
Sure.
I would in an instant. He did and
Absolutely.
hired the person. But if you want to get in something really cool, I'm sorry, go ahead and offer to work for free for a month or a year. Who cares? I mean,
Yeah.
what's his name? Did it in what was it? Think and Grow Rich, I think they talked about that story, going to work for someone for free, Thomas Edison, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's brilliant. Absolutely
So it
brilliant.
works today.
Yeah. I love these strategies. These are really helpful for the college students who are listening here. Are there any other secret success strategies that the today's most effective and uncommon leaders are using?
Yes. When it comes to, I'll just lay in on the networking some more.
Yeah.
I'm like old school. I'm starting to send postcards again and mail because, email took over the past 20 years and
Yeah.
we get spam, but
Right.
nobody like sends a handwritten note anymore.
Mm.
So when you do that with somebody, it's like, wow, this person took the time. It's not the note. It's what they know had to happen in order for that note to show up in the mail. Had to sit, think, write, stamp, send it. Birthdays. But anytime you can have an additional touch point to another person, it's going to help you out. The easier it is to make that touch point, the less value it has. So that's why I'm big this year. We're still doing our Zoom calls for our clients, but we're also putting a lot of emphasis on in-person meetings and actually meeting people. And it's going to go slower. I know it's going to go slower and I don't care Because imagine if you're a recent college grad and you know, meet one person, one multimillionaire or a billionaire. I took one guy to lunch once when I was younger. And I said, hey, his company, $100 million company, and what's the secret to success? You know, I said, can I take you to lunch? He said, well, I don't eat lunch. Oh, clue number one. He says, can we have a salad or water or something? Yeah, we'll meet up. So, and true to his statement, he didn't eat lunch. But he talked about what success meant to him and how he built his business so big. And he said two things. I'd never hire anybody I wouldn't be comfortable having dinner with at my home, right? That was important to him. And the second thing was never expect anybody, no matter who they are, to work at anything more than 80% of what you expect. Because as the owner of the company, no one's going to work harder than me.
Right.
So don't expect them to. You know, be a little bit loose on, hey, do the best you can. I appreciate it, and encourage and lead, but don't expect people are going to treat it the same way you do.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for any business owner, because we all want people to care as much as we do, but we also have to recognize these are people that have other priorities. They have families, they have other things going on in their lives. So you have to show some grace, certainly. One last thing, and I think that's really important, because all the students that I talk to, they're all trying to get more done in less time. And maybe that's why AI has taken off the way that it has taken off. What tips do you have for quickly achieving your goals in life?
Yeah, I would say be focused. There's a lot of opportunities, and it's important to know what you can say no to. I tend to say yes to a lot of things I shouldn't, but then over time I figure out I'm not going to do that again. So it's okay when you're young to say yes to a lot of things, and it might go slow at first, but it's going to curve up. As soon as you know what you don't want to do, or who you don't want to talk to, you're going to be filtering out what you don't want, which is maybe more important than knowing what you want, because a lot of times you're young, you don't know what you want. Do you know what you're going to be in 10 years? Do you know what your career will be in 20? I'm sorry, your industry hasn't even been invented yet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I read once a couple of years ago that if you take a look at your credit card statement, half the things on there weren't even available 10 years ago. I mean, the economy changes so rapidly, and with AI, it's going to disrupt every industry. So, and I last thing on that, I did talk to the chief data scientist at IBM a couple of years ago. And I was, I'm a science fiction fan, so I'm talking like, this robots and AI are going to kill us all. And he said, I understand you're saying that, Doug, but here's another angle you should know about. And he started quoting me stats on the 250,000 job titles that are not being filled right now when it comes to robotics, AI, and cloud computing, things like that.
Yeah.
He said, you know what? There's whole industries around biomechanics. How do you get this hand to move like a robot? Well, you need to know physics, you need to know mechanics, you need to know anatomy. And there's no degree in all that. So you got to have, piece it together right now. So there's a lot of opportunity in the future. But yeah, and the problem with higher education is a lot of them are still teaching stuff was really cool 20 years ago. And you got to also go outside the classroom and see what else is happening in the ecosystem, in business and industries, to know what's coming and how you can get yourself in the way of progress. So don't bank on your dad's 401k plan. You got to figure out your own way to make your mark and to adapt quickly, because things are going to change much more rapidly as we go.
Yeah, well, that's great advice. And now you're making me feel much better about my son's decision to study data science. I feel like he's on the right road. So all of that is good. Now, we do love good food here at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. And I just so happen that next week I'm going to be in the Carolinas. I'm going to be speaking at Campbell University. So the next time that I arrive in Charleston, South Carolina, where should I go for a great meal?
Well, you should come over here, because my wife is in the Philippines and there's no better cook on the planet than her.
Oh, I love it.
After you have dinner at my house, which you are invited, this is an official invite to public, right?
Yeah.
But the barbecue down here it rivals Texas and Tennessee's barbecue. It's really good. So we would go to Home Team, or a couple of Swig and Swine is really good. Depends what kind of barbecue you like, because they each have different things they're known for. Home Team's got this amazing ribs with like this sauce in there. It's just it's like a white sauce. It's to die for. So yeah, I'll give you some lists, but you got to come here first. Yeah.
All right, that sounds
Yeah.
like a plan.
Yeah.
We could definitely make that happen. Listen, I'm a
Sure.
Nashville guy. You got to understand, I'm coming from Nashville. I
I
know
understand.
good barbecue. I know what it tastes like. I'm a classic pulled pork kind of guy. That's just my jam.
Yep.
But that's how I can really tell if this is good barbecue or not.
It'll be in the same league. It's, different. I was in Nashville last year for a
Yeah,
couple trips, and yeah, I know they know what they're doing there as
they know
well.
what they're doing.
Yeah.
They know
Yeah.
what they're doing. But
Right.
listen, that sounds really good to me. And your wife sounds like a fantastic cook. So anytime
Yes.
I can get some home cooking, I'm going to take advantage of that every single
Got it, man. Come on down. Would love to have you.
That's really good. All right. So if our audience, if our students want some help in terms of their personal branding, they want to
Mhm.
hire you to speak on their
Mhm.
college campus, where
Sure.
should they go in order to connect with you?
Very easy. They can drop me an email, doug@dougcrowe.com, and put your name in the subject line. I'll be happy to have a conversation with them. They go to our website at dougcrowe.com, go to the contact form there, or just email is fine. Doug@dougcrowe.com or dougcrowe.com. Either one will get you there.
I love it. So Doug at dougcrowe.com. He spells his
Mhm.
last name Crowe. So don't
Right.
leave off that last E.com. And listen, Doug, this has been so great. There's so much great information here. So thank you for sharing all of this with our listeners today.
You bet. Thank you very much for having me.
Of course. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this conversation with Doug, I want you to like it on social media and I want you to share it with other college students because he dropped absolute gold in this interview. You got to go back and listen to it again to make sure that you didn't miss anything. So make sure that you share it. And we look forward to seeing you on another episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.